Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of my Elemental Dual Blades guide. So this video is going to cover useful armor pieces to consider when I make my builds, the weapons that I go with, as well as builds I go with them, and even a couple builds that I don't primarily use but have experimented with a bit, and weapons that you might want to personally use. So before we get started, I know there's been a bit of time between these two videos. I apologize, guys. I was in the direct path of the big storm, the hurricane that was coming through, Hurricane Florence, and was completely both unprepared and didn't realize it was coming at the time. So recorded this video and then all hell broke loose basically, and I had to leave for a little bit, but we're back. Everything's fine. We're safe. No property damage. Everything's cool. Quick disclaimer as well, since I am playing on PC, I will say, I'm not sure how much I mentioned this in the last video since it's been a while since I recorded it, but I do use 3 mods on PC, and just so you're aware. Transmog mod, as I'm sure you've been able to tell, my character is not actually wearing Karen gear or the sunglasses. I mean, he's made them, he has them, but he's not using them as actual gear at the moment. The damage meter that they have, since, I mean, it reads information that the game already has that only provides us when damage dealer pops up, and I kind of like knowing a little bit more about it, which helps me test my builds a ton. And the transmog, damage meter, and oh yeah, third mod is a texture mod, which will affect Odegaron. It affects Odegaron's weapons as well as his armor pieces. Where in the last video, I'm sure you guys saw, I was wearing Odegaron pieces that were very heavily textured. And that is part of the mod, but that's kind of just about it. As far as modding goes, I mean, I still back up my save consistently. I reset my armor values back to normal whenever an update comes out, just to make sure, and I have my game set to not automatically update. So just safety precautions on my own part, but I'm totally cool with visual mods. I like my character not looking terrible, and I'm probably going to get rid of this when we actually get caught up on layered gear. But until then, Elemental Dual Blades have some really ugly looking gear, so I didn't want to deal with it for too terribly long after playing, you know, PS4 and dealing with it so long there. PC is a nice refresher. So anyway, before we ramble on for too long, let's go ahead and jump into this. So there are some weapons that are some pieces of armor that I consider when building for Elemental Dual Blades. I mean, I'm sure you guys will see a couple of these here, the obvious choices, but we're going to go through them piece by piece and kind of talk about why I consider them pretty heavily when building my my sets. So the very first one will probably come to no one's surprise is the Rathalos Soul Helm Beta. This helmet has 2 level 1 slots, 1 point of crit boost, only one of 3 pieces of armor in the game right now on PC that have crit boost. Yeah, 2 level 1 slots, point of crit boost, and it's 1/2 of our elemental crit set bonus, Rathalos Mastery. So definitely a good piece of armor to have. It's going to be on most of my builds, if not almost all of them, I believe, use this helmet. At least elemental crit builds, so pretty nice to have. Second piece we're going to take a look at is just the Rathalos Helm Beta. Mostly like the Rathalos Soul Helm Beta, it has 1 slot of 1 level 1 slot in it. It's, you know, 1/2 of a Rathalos Mastery of course. But it also does have 2 points of attack boost. Now, early on, when you don't have a lot of decorations, this may be nice to have to hit that level, or that 4 levels of attack boost breakpoint, get the extra crit, and get a little bit of attack. It's not a bad choice to have. Is used in some builds. I don't think I use it in my builds anymore, but it was used, and I had it here. So, nice little helmet to have, depending upon how you prefer to build. Next on our list is, again, an obvious choice, the Rathalos Male Beta. Has 2 pieces of weakness exploit, or 2 points of weakness exploit. It's 1 piece of a Rathalos Mastery, and it has a level 1 slot. All in all, solid chest piece. I think it's also used in builds I have actually that don't use Rathalos Mastery. It's just a really good chest piece for 2 points of weakness exploit in a slot, so pretty nice. And to follow that up, Wrath Soul Male Beta. This is mostly for my builds that I have to use free element on. So right now in the game, there aren't a lot of choices for free element. Kieran beta legs being one of them, and this chest piece. So those are usually the common combinations that you go with, and it has a level 2 slot in it, so pretty nice to have. And of course, it's another, you know, half of our Rathalos Mastery for critical element, just like the other Rathalos male beta chess piece. Moving on from chess pieces, we have a, I want to call it a fan favorite. I think people are tired of it, honestly. The Dobermale beta. Now, this is used in very niche situations where you don't need the chess piece to complete Rathalos Mastery. There are some helmet glove combinations, some helmet waist combinations that you can utilize where you can fit in the Dober chess piece. It does have a level 3 slot, which is awesome, and 2 points of attack boost. So definitely useful, definitely worth keeping your eye on, definitely worth grabbing early on. To be honest, it's a very versatile piece of equipment. Next, we're going to move into gloves, starting with the Kaiser Van Braces Alpha. These have 2 points of weakness exploit and a level 1 slot. Just value, weakness exploit strong, and then following it up with Kaiser Van Braces Beta, where you don't need those 2 extra points. In most cases, you'll end up with these instead. The Kaiser Van Braces Beta have a level 3 slot, as opposed to the Alpha with a level 1 slot, with only 1 point of weakness exploit. When you're combining a with things like the Rathalos chess piece, it's a no-brainer. You don't want to overcap your weakness exploit. You're not getting any extra of it. So that level 3 slot, a lot more useful. Now, one that I recommend for a lot of people, honestly, and one I'm even using it right now, especially since I don't have critical boost decorations, which kind of sucks. But the Xeno'jiiva Claws Alpha. Now, these claws give a point of critical boost, and they also give a level 1 slot. And if you play in multiplayer, something invaluable, 1 level of flinch free. Flinch free keeps you from being staggered by your teammates, unless it's like a blast from like a crack or from a clutch shot. This is very helpful, and this is one, again, of 3 pieces that actually have critical boost on them. I believe there's one other piece that has critical boost, and I don't remember what it is. Oh, it's the 2 versions of the Rathalos helmet. Hang on a moment. I believe it's... Yeah, okay, so Rathalos Soul Helm Alpha and Beta both have critical boost, and then the Xeno'jiiva Claws Alpha also have critical boost on them. So Xeno'jiiva Claws Alpha, definitely a useful set of gloves to have. Moving on, it's a little bit less on the totem pole, but not a bad choice, especially for early on builds. The Nergigante Van Braces Alpha, you have 2 points of agitator, which increase our attack and crit linearly, which is really, really nice. Honestly, this is mostly just for early dual blades builds. You're really not going to use this later on. Honestly, you don't really have to go towards it. The point in attack boost is kind of whatever. The 2 points in agitator is nice to have, but it's for my usual early game or early end game build, which usually has 3 pieces of Nergigante. So I thought I might toss it on here. Not a bad choice, but it is 1/3 of Nergigante Hunger, which procs an often enough, honestly, with dual blades. So not a bad choice. Moving on to waist pieces, we have the Odogaron Oil Beta. Now, I do apologize. A lot of these pieces need gems or need rubies. So yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, the Odogaron Coil Beta gives us 2 points of critical eye, a level 2 slot. Pretty nice, and that's really just about all we need it for. We do value crit very high in our builds, so Odogaron Coil gets used a lot. Now, the one coil I will swap this out for occasionally, depending upon the situation. I think I already passed it. Here it is, the Nergigante Coil Beta. Yes, we're going with the beta because Stamina Surge, I'm not going to say it's terrible or it sucks, but for dual blades, it's not very strong. It doesn't make as much of a difference as you would imagine, just for the way we utilize our attacks. So it does get your stamina going up higher, but I would honestly go with the Nergigante Coil Beta, unless you just don't have any decorations, you're just starting out. But the beta is going to be more useful and more worth your time. You're going to see it used in more builds overall. 2 points of attack boost if you don't need the crit, and a level 2 slot. It basically is the opposite choice for the Odogaron Coil. Next, we're moving on to boots. We'll start with the Dober Greaves Beta. Now, Dober Greaves are nice to have when you really don't have anything else to go in this slot. Gives us 2 points of attack boost to help us get to that 4 point of attack threshold and a level 1 slot, which in our build we use quite a bit since we slot in a lot of elemental attack up, attack or crit up, and things like that. Those are all level 1 decorations. Having those slots is really, really nice. Next, again, one of those fan favorites, or one that's used in a lot of builds, we have the Death Stench Heal beta. Now, in the last video, we did talk about how sharpness was important, and this piece is just valuable. It's just a valuable piece. It's 2 points of handicraft, and 2 level 1 slots. Very useful. I do use it in quite a few of my builds where I do need a bit of extra handicraft, or it's very nice in the combination of the handicraft, these boots and then the handicraft charm for 5 points of handicraft. Very easy to hit. It is a lot of investment, but it is definitely worth your time depending upon the build you're going for, and you will see it in some of our builds. Moving next, we're going to, let's see here. Yep. The Kieran Leg Guards beta. Kieran Leg Guards beta are just, again, it's similar to the Death Stench Heal. It's 2 level 1 slots. We have 2 points of free element though instead, which free element is so we can unlock the hidden element on a piece of gear. As you can see, what you'll find normally, and when I don't have free element on, is this is going to be grayed out. It'll be a much lower value. Of course, I think it's 180 base, but this is grayed out. That is a hidden element. It requires free element to unlock. At level 3 free element, you get the full unlock for it. So it's kind of nice. I was gonna pull back and show you guys, but I realized that this set has free element on it, so it's pointless. I'll show you guys what I'm looking at when we're looking at the builds, kind of what I mean. So yeah, Kieran Leg Guards beta, very nice to have. And to follow those up, moment, let's see if I can find them. So I put, my notes, I went with Nergigante Greaves Alpha. Oh, I do know why I went with them, because the beta ones are useless to us. Alpha's nice to have to round out that Nergigante hunger. It gives us a point in Agitator, but we do have a useless point in Max Might. Like I mentioned, we won't ever really use it except for like one very, very niche situation. That level 1 slot's okay, but it's mostly just to round out the Nergigante hunger and get that 1 point of Agitator. Not really high value, in my opinion, but it is there. Now, one thing I did overlook, and it's definitely not in my notes either, and I want to kind of talk to you guys about as well. In situations where you have your chest slot free, and you don't need, or you need the boot slot for something else, and you can't use handicraft, the Kushala chest piece does have 2 points of handicraft in a level 2 slot. Not a bad choice, but in most cases, your leg or your boot slot is going to be free where your chest piece may not be, since we have the Rathalos chest piece, which is very, very strong for our builds in both situations where we're going for weakness exploit and for free element. So it's just not very high on the totem pole, but it is here, it is useful. I did want to mention it as well. I do have a couple of other honorable mentions as far as gear goes. First one being the Damascus chest piece. Is it the chest piece? Yeah. Damascus Mail beta. Yep, Damascus Mail beta. So this has 2 points of focus, which does affect our build, our gauge build for our Arc Demon mode. We don't really need it, but it does affect it, so it's there. And 3 level 1 slots in a situation where you don't need a chest piece. If you're, say, playing on the PS4 and you have more armor to kind of round out your stuff, using things like the USJ armor, or just in general, your builds are going to come up a little bit differently because of those armor pieces. This chest piece is nice to have. His 3 level 1 slots plus 2 points of focus isn't bad. Not really high on our totem pole, but not bad choice. Along with focus, yet again, we have the Diablos Nero braces beta. These have 1 point of focus, cool. But more importantly, they have a level 2 and a level 1 decoration slot, which is pretty huge. You can get off some really nice combinations with that. So those level 2 slots are very, very useful. And we talked about it in the last video, and this is one of the 2 ways I'd recommend it. If you want to slot in Marathon Runner, the Diablos Coil Beta would be your best choice in my opinion. You get 2 points of Marathon Runner in a level 2 slot. The waist is kind of a lower priority slot, a lower priority piece of gear for you overall, just because it's, in most situations in our builds, dedicated just primarily to damage, and you can lose a little bit of damage for some quality of life. So Diablos Coil Beta, not a bad choice. If you also want to look at another piece of gear that's not a bad choice for rounding out 2 points of Marathon Runner. The Kieran Horn Beta is also a pretty good choice. But I think that just about covers all of our gear. I did leave off a few pieces of gear as well, that are just kind of noted on the side. The Giratotus Vambraces Beta give you 2 points of water attack up, so if you need that water attack and you don't want to slot it in, or you don't have the decorations, which you really should since you can meld for them, and I'm going to show you guys that at the end of the video as well. But if you don't want to meld for them, you want to kind of set up your build and you want to do something a bit different, 2 points of water attack, a level 1 slot, not a bad choice. Same thing with the Kieran Beta gloves. Let's see here really quick. Yep, the Kieran Long Arms Beta. They have 2 level 1 slots, 2 points of thunder attack. Solid choice. And if you were looking at replacing the coil, because I mentioned it was just related to damage, you can take a look at the Rathalos Coil Beta in a situation where you want to use the waist to finish out your Rathalos Mastery instead of your chest piece. You can get 2 points of fire attack for fire attack builds and a level 2 slot. So very good piece of gear. I'm probably going to make it an experiment with a couple of my fire builds. I'm not sure how I'm going to work with it just yet, but we'll see how it works out. So now the way I was going to do this before was I was going to kind of go through the weapons and my weapon choices. I'm going to go ahead and go here for one of the weapons because I don't have a build put together for it anymore because I kind of replaced it. I don't really need that weapon anymore. But what we're going to do is we're going to kind of talk about our weapon choices and our builds together instead of separating them. So I'm going to take a look at a specific weapon really quick here. This is probably the first set of dual blades I'll recommend anyone to build. Like, this is just straight value, is the Decimation Claws. Going through the game and even coming back through it a second time, these were my first set of dual blades I used towards endgame, just because they go straight off of the ore tree, which is really, really easy. Actually, I think it's better if I do it this way. Dual blades, go tree, yeah, sweet. So they go straight off the ore tree, fairly easy to keep up with. While going through the game, I built a bit into the bone tree, up to a certain point, I believe, like right around here-ish. And then I swapped up to the ore tree in high rank, built up all the way to the ore tree, popped into these right after beating Gigante, and then right after Xeno'jiiva, farmed the extra pieces I need off of Xeno'jiiva, made these Decimation Claws, and just started tearing through endgame to make everything. They're really nice. They don't require any points in handicraft. They've got 120 dragon, which isn't a lot, but they do have a massive amount of raw damage for dual blades. And a level 1 slot, which is kind of nice. They only need 2 points of dragon attack, if I remember correctly, to max out, so not really much needed, and they already come with that 1 slot that you can use. Plus they only have 1 augmentation slot, which isn't the best, but it's not really that bad either. And no negative affinity. Very, very nice set of claws here, but no longer used, unfortunately. So let's take a look at our builds. First on the list, oh, and actually I wanted to show you guys something really quick here. I'm gonna switch over to the Diabolus clubs here real quick. This is an example of a weapon that doesn't have an element, that has its element hidden. If you look at it, element none. We don't have any points in free element. But if we pop over to looking at the actual weapon itself, we can clearly see, if I can remember where it is, here we go, that it has ice underneath the element slot, but it's just grayed out. This is an example of essentially a hidden element. It needs a sorry about that, guys. It needs a skill free element to unlock its elemental boost, but we don't use it for that reason. I mean, we do use them, but we don't use it for that specific reason. So let's take a look at the different builds that we go with, starting with our fire dual blades, the Anjanath Cyclones. The Anjanath Cyclones they're just strong. Anjanath Cyclones have 2 augmentation slots, high raw damage, blue sharpness, can be increased with handicraft. However, they don't go to white, and they have high fire damage. So the build we're going with right now is the Rathalos Soul Helm Beta, Rathalos Mail Beta, Xeno'jiiva Claws, Odogaron Coil Beta, Death Stench Heal Beta, Master's Charm 3. That gives us a whopping 5 points in Critical Eye, 4 points in Attack Boost, 3 points Weakness Exploit, 2 points Fire Attack, 2 points Critical Boost, 2 points in Handicraft, and 1 point in Flinch Free. Probably ask, what's the point of the 2 points in Handicraft? mostly because I found while using these dual blades, the amount of blue sharpness they give isn't really much, and the extra 2 points that I have in it is just enough to avoid having to sharpen most of the time a third time in a hunt. In most cases, only having to sharpen once, or in some cases where I'm being super lazy, not sharpening at all, and just dropping down to like yellow sharpness. So yes, dual blades eat through sharpness like crazy. Yes, I'm actually experimenting or going to be trying a Master's Touch build for fighting Valhazak with dual blades, specifically these ones. It'll be kind of tough since they start with negative affinity, but Valhazak has a very huge weak spot that you can hit consistently with ease, so I feel like it'll be just enough crit procs to keep my sharpness up. Won't be infinite, but it should be much higher. And this build ends up working out okay, and we'll actually pop over the decorations from this point forward, that way you guys can see them a little bit easier. But what we went with is we slotted in 2 attack decorations. Actually, we slotted in 4 in this one. You don't have to do that. You only need 2. You start out with 1, and they give you a second, or you can get a second one after farming enough. It's tough to get, but just keep at it. But you would just swap out this Odogaron coil for the Nergigante coil beta, slot in your 2 attack decorations, and then you would just slot in 2 I can't think of it, 2 critical jewels, so 2 expert decorations. You slot in the 2 expert decorations instead, which again, they're kind of rare. So to be fair, if you don't have these, a lot of these builds you can still do, just the decorations you don't have, slot in something like recovery or vitality. Is still, the idea behind the build itself is still going to be there with the armor pieces, and it'll still function as you are grinding to get the required decorations. But this does have 4 attack jewels. Honestly, I just slotted them in because I was very proud of the fact that I had farmed enough to actually get 4 attack jewels. I didn't have this many by the time I was on on PC. Sorry, I didn't have this many on PS4 by this time I'd played this much. So yeah, I was pretty happy about that. Also, 2 blaze jewels. It's just to get 2 fire attack to round out the maximum amount of fire. We can't get any more. I'll show you guys really quick. We're at 270. So we take one out. We go to 240. Put the blaze jewel back in. 270. If we swap out an attack jewel for blaze, doesn't get any higher. So you can see it doesn't help us out by slotting in any more blaze. Understand that your weapons do have a cap. Understand what that cap is. All right, so let's move on to the next build. Something with a few less attack decorations. Next, we're going with our water setup, the Giratodus hatchets. So the Gira hatchets 3. This is our water setup that we're going with. It has 4 points of attack boost, 4 points of critical eye, 3 points of weakness exploit, 3 points in handicraft, 2 points in water attack, 1 level of critical boost, and protective polish. So the 3 points in handicraft is just to get it to white sharpness, and then we use protective polish to maintain it. And people always tell you, hey, bring those wet fish fins to keep your white sharpness. The idea behind the protective polish and the white sharpness is at the start of the hunt, before we engage the monster, is to get protective polish up. While we have things like Rocksteady Mantle, we have actually, does it show here? No, I think it won't show here, but it'll show here. That's so annoying. But while we have things like our augments on our weapon, because this weapon is augmented, I don't think it'll show it here either, which is annoying. Shift, nah. Oh, it doesn't. Actually, this weapon hasn't been augmented yet, but the idea is you'd have a health augment. I usually augment for health first before I do anything else, and then get the rest of the augments I need. But while you have your mantle up, or like something like Rocksteady Mantle or Invasion Mantle, where you can keep in the game doing more damage, keep attacking longer, you have that white sharpness to give you a good boost in damage. The idea is not that you maintain that white sharpness 100% of the time, but you use that minute to keep yourself from dipping super low sharpness. As you can see, the Giratodus dual blades do not have a ton of sharpness. They go into yellow and then red extremely fast. So I usually let them drop down to green before disengaging, sharpening, and then re-engaging the monster. I personally found, even in situations, because I mentioned beforehand, I do use the damage tracker, even in situations where I have to disengage a monster and then go ahead and re-engage in multiplayer specifically, it's totally fine. I can usually keep up, if not pass, most people that I end up playing with. A lot of my friends actually do really well. So except for bow users, let's not go down that path. They're buff. It makes me sad. You bow users out there, I know you guys are enjoying yourselves, because man, oh man, are you guys doing some damage. Anyway, the setup we're going with here is essentially just like beforehand. We want attack, crit, weakness, exploits, a little bit of critical boost, and this is kind of what we end up with. We've got that little bit of white sharpness, 270 water, pretty nice, and then 20 points or 20% of affinity will end up at 30 when we get the augment completed. So this does again have a lot of decorations in it. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 expert decorations, but again, you can swap those out for something else. Say you have more attack jewels than decoration, or than expert decorations, you can swap out the Nergigante coil or the Odogaron coil and then slot in your attack jewels, or just slot in recovery or vitality, something to just, you know, just kind of go in that slot until you actually get the decorations you need. You don't have to get the full amount of damage off this. The biggest points you want to make sure you're getting are your weakness exploit, crit if you can, that handicraft when you can get a hold of it, and then that water attack up, and protective polish. But the hard part is this is also a decoration, so good luck to you guys. I don't really know what to tell you outside of this one. This one's just keep going for it. Just keep going for it, I guess. In a situation where you don't have the protective polish tool, I would say swap out your Dober Greaves or the handicraft ones. So there you go. Let's move on to our ice dual blades. We're using the Freeze Chain 2s. Freeze Chain 2s have 3 augmentation slots, decent raw damage, blue sharpness that can get up to white with handicraft, and a decent amount of ice damage to go along with it as well. It does cap out at 200, but with this setup, we have 6 levels of critical eye, 5 levels of handicraft, 3 points of critical boost, 3 points of weakness exploit, 2 levels of ice attack, and a point of flinch free. Let's take a look at the decorations we went with. So the Freeze Chain 2s do have a level 2 slot, which is very nice. So we were able to slot in a critical jewel here. And then we just slotted in our 2 frost jewels, which gets us up to cap as per usual. Our tenderizer jewel here for our 3rd point of weakness exploit. If not, of course, you can swap out the gloves or the Kaiser gloves. This is pretty much the case in most builds. If you don't have the decorations, you can swap out your claws for the Kaiser gloves to get your 3rd point of weakness exploit. Just follow the priority I mentioned in build or in the first guide video in part 1, and then you'll pretty much be fine. And you just slot in your decorations from there. Let's go ahead and move on to our... So lightning dual blades are in a bit of an odd spot. I actually have 3 sets of lightning dual blades. So this is, I'm actually gonna cover these ones here for right now. This is my Kadachi dual blades. So the Kadachi dual blades have 3 augmentation slots, a decent amount of raw damage, blue sharpness that can go to white with handicraft, and a decent thunder damage with affinity to start with as well. So as you can see, I have 40% affinity on this build. We have our 2 bolt jewels, expert decorations like crazy because we have the slots available for them, but just swap them out. So we actually end up with a whopping 7 points in critical eye, 5 points in handicraft, 3 points of weakness exploit, 2 points thunder attack, 2 points critical boost, and a point of flinch free. This is probably the 2nd strongest set of thunder dual blades I'd say in the game. From there, we're going to our dragon dual blades, which is why we're not using the Nergigante claws anymore, is because the Wrathful Predation came out. These dual blades are extremely powerful. They have 2 augmentation slots, the highest high raw damage, decent amount of blue sharpness that can get to it with a little bit of handicraft, a very small amount of handicraft actually, and decent dragon damage. I believe it only needs 1 point of handicraft, but I go with just the dense shield for the 2 instead of having to slot them in. And we'll take a look at the decorations really quick here. So we have 2 attack jewels, 2 expert jewels, and attack deco, 1 critical jewel, sharp jewel, and then 2 dragon decorations. So that gives us what we have here currently. Not a bad setup. Seems to work out well. There is an argument that can be made for the, what's the name of the coil? There's a dragon attack coil. I want to say it's Death Stench. That can be used instead. I would take a look at it, see if you can work it in, but it works out well. And of course, we have that protective polish on there to keep that white sharpness for the early parts of the fight and for any transitions that you end up getting. And because everyone loves these dual blades, we're going to talk about the fire and ice dual blades. So I do have a build for them. I don't think it's really that great. I don't use them very much, which I know people are like, why not? They're so great. So the build I have set up for these, you've got 6 points of critical eye, 5 points of handicraft, 3 points of critical boost, 3 points of weakness exploit, 2 points in ice attack, and flinch free. The reason I don't use them much is because we are an elemental dual blades setup. I mean, they're not bad. They're great in situations where you fight monsters like, what is it, Diabolos, that are weak to ice and blast procs. I say blast proc specifically because just because a monster is weak to blast does not mean they take increased damage to blast. You actually can't increase blast damage in the game. It is only a static 120 every time it procs, so it's okay, but not the best. And the way the game has this set up, you have your dual blades that are fire and ice. So with that, you're actually only getting the ice application from one dual blade and the blast application from the other. So when you're looking at the stats in these dual blades, they look amazing with 240 ice and 240 blast, but in reality, you want to actually half both of those compared to every other set of dual blades. So in reality, you're looking at 120 ice and 120 blast, which isn't much, especially in situations where we're doing elemental dual blades. The ice only goes up to 300, I believe, which is only 150 ice, and then you still only get 120 blast on top of that as well. But they do come with bonus affinity, which isn't bad. They've got a level 2 slot, which is really nice for them, and you can do some pretty cool stuff with like a master's touch build and take advantage of the ice and the blast at the same time. So I haven't really built for it because I don't use it, but it definitely is here. It's not a bad choice if you want to build for it, but I probably wouldn't recommend it if you're really hell-bent on doing elemental dual blades. I guess I should show off the decorations too, my bad. But expert, frost, tenderizer, and critical, pretty standard. We usually go for. Just want to follow that that priority that we mentioned. And we're going to show a couple more dual blade sets. I have tons of these, honestly. I can do a video talking about all of my dual blade sets, but I have a ton of these sets. I want to go over the ones that specifically relate to elemental dual blades. So we do have a setup for the Sin dual blade just because I like them, to be honest. I have to retexture for them. They're really cool. Probably my favorite dual blades in the game. Sad thing to say is they're weaker. They're definitely weaker than the Anjanath Cyclone 3s. Even with the extra crit and the white sharpness, they just don't keep up. So the Sin dual blades have one augmentation slot. They have very low raw, white sharpness with no handicraft needed, which is awesome, and a decent amount of fire elemental damage, but it does have to be unlocked using free element. So our build setup with it is 5 points of critical eye, free element, 3 points of critical boost, 3 points of weakness exploit, 2 points fire attack, and flinch free. We'll take a look at that really quick. So we have our decorations where there are 2 points slotted in, or 2 expert decorations slotted in, 1 in the glove, or 3, I'm sorry, 1 in the gloves and 2 in the boots, a critical jewel, a tenderizer jewel, and 2 blaze jewels. You guys will kind of see the theme here. We actually went with an exploiter charm because we needed the chest piece, the Rathalos Soul Mail. So we actually have a weakness exploit charm, which ends up giving us the 3 points that we need, along with the tenderizer decoration we have slotted in. So if you like Sin dual blades, honestly, they're not far behind, so you can definitely use them. They're just not as strong. If you are a fan of the Kirin dual blades, I have a setup for these as well. They do play well enough. Because of the way that these dual blades are set up, they don't really have a lot you're going to have to benefit from them, but it does get a lot of points in this stuff. So you have 7 points of critical eye, 5 points of critical boost, 3 points of thunder attack, 3 points of weakness exploit, and 1... I said critical boost earlier. I meant attack boost, and 1 point of critical boost. Anyway, take a look at the decorations. We have expert like crazy, 1 point in attack up, tenderizer, and bolt. So we only have 1 bolt jewel in here because the Kirin long arms actually have 2 points of thunder attack. So this does benefit from 3 points of thunder attack, which is kind of nice for the dual blades, giving it a whopping 350 element, which is pretty high. It's actually crazy high. But it does suffer pretty hardcore from its lack of raw damage, which does end up having them sit as the worst of the 3 options of elemental or of thunder elemental dual blades. At least for what I've been able to build for them. Maybe you have a better build, feel free to share it. Moving forward, we have, I would say, in this, I was surprised to find out, but these have been my strongest thunder elemental dual blades so far. So we have the Dual Destroyers 3s, the Tsuda Yaku's dual blades. It blew my mind when I saw these, but I'm not sure why I didn't try them beforehand. But our build is 5 points of critical eye, free element, of course. 3 points weakness exploit, 3 points handicraft, which gets to white sharpness, 2 points of thunder attack, 2 points of critical boost, and 1 protective polish. Look at the decorations. We have actually slotted in a release jewel. Isn't really necessary. You can move things around a bit and use the Rathalos Soul chess piece and change up the charm, but you may not have the white sharpness. But essentially, we've just slotted in our 2 bolt jewels because it only benefits from 2. A critical jewel, expert, and sharp, and then the release in the weapon because it does have a level 3 slot, which is awesome for weapons that need free element to have a slot to be able to slot in free element. Pretty freaking cool to have. And we'll just take a look at these really quick at the end. I do have a blast setup, of course, but I think this could be a lot better. This is just for fun with Basilhook Rook Slayers. We do have an Effluvia setup for dual blades for the Sin and the Anjanath Cyclone. Just gonna show you guys the decorations. I just dropped a bit of, I believe, attack and swapped over for crit, and then got my 3 points, or my 3 miasma jewels in. So there you go. Lost a little crit, mostly swapped out a lot of attack since attack's not super high on our priority list. And if you guys still like the Sin dual blades, here is the Effluvia Sin version. A little less crit. Didn't have as much space to work with, but there you guys go. That gives you 3 points of critical boost, weakness exploit, Effluvia, attack or fire attack 2, and just 2 points of critical eye because that's all we really could afford. You could swap it for attack, but I find the extra points in crit just to be a little bit more useful. Honestly, I might swap it up. I'm thinking attack may be a little bit better just because it's only going to give us 6 points of affinity. And these do have very, very low raw damage, but I'll have to test them out, see what comes out being better. But that's pretty much about it, guys. So this video went substantially longer than I kind of wanted it to, but it does cover a lot of equipment. It's pretty much most of my builds that I actually use when it comes to elemental dual blades. If you guys have any questions, any ideas, any builds you find that just work better for you that I can personally try out, I'm more than happy to give them a shot. I wanted to show you guys this in 2 parts, mainly because the biggest issue I have with a lot of build videos are people tell you, hey, build this is better for this reason, but they don't give you any extra information. I wanted to kind of equip you guys with the knowledge and information that I normally use when I come up with my build videos. However, I am biased to what I like in my playstyle, and I tend to not always branch out to abilities that I could use more often, and that's where you guys come in. Some of you may have experience in different builds and different ideas and different setups that I may not have tried previously, and it'd be awesome to get some feedback and some ideas from you guys in the community itself. So hopefully this is helpful to someone who is looking to play elemental dual blades. I find it pretty fun to swap up my gear. I actually have even color-coded my elements just for fun, but I have fun swapping up my gear to match the monsters that I'm fighting, and I actually find that it does do a lot of damage. Elemental, or building elemental in World, has been a little bit discouraging compared to past games just because Raw seems to be so powerful. Even with all these builds, I still have a Diabolus Clubs build that uses Protector Polish non-elemental boost that actually can not exactly go toe-to-toe, but stay right behind all of my other builds, but is useful on every single monster. So, take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to build elemental, but it's fun to use. I enjoy it, and if you're gonna do it, this is the way that I do it. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me on another one, and I'll see you guys. Actually, I don't know. I'm not sure when I'm gonna do another Monster Hunter video, or not another Monster Hunter World video. If you guys have any requests or recommendations, feel free to let me know in the comments. Take care.